Toradora is one of my favorite romance shows, and as the word romance infers, there's a lot of different relationships throughout the show and drama that follows them. This is one of the strongest points of the whole show, as all the different characters have vastly different relationships with one another, making the whole show feel more realistic. The story starts off with our two protagonists as they're having an internal monologue about how the world keeps things hidden from people. These things end up becoming the most precious as they're destined for those people and not everyone. While this makes you think that the show's going to be very serious, it takes a very different turn through the characters in the first half of the show. The characters are willing to joke around a lot even if they're in bad situations, as that might be how they cope. Our protagonist Ryuji with his mother live in an old house with no father as he's left them. He also possesses some of his father's features which he's come to dislike. More or less he looks like a gangster, and because of this people are scared of him, most of the time getting the wrong idea. While Taiga on the other hand seems like a small and cute girl that's not scared to show how she feels, ends up being very aggressive and emotional. While she seems angry, there are many other emotions she's unable to express, mostly earlier in the show. She's a tsundere with her unwillingness to express certain emotions. From the start, we are presented with both characters being misunderstood and very different to each other. With a better understanding of the characters and how they're written, I'll explain the basic premise of the story. Taiga likes Kitamura, a boy that's friends with our protagonist Ryuji. However, while she was trying to put a love letter into Kitamura's bag, she puts it into Ryuji's bag by accident. She realizes this too late, leading to Ryuji finding out. In the middle of the night, she attacks him in his own house, trying to kill him as he's seen the letter. While Taiga is attacking Ryuji, he explains that the letter was empty in the first place, and she ends up passing out from hunger. After feeding his attacker, Ryuji explains that if it's really that big of a deal, he can help Taiga to get with his friend, after explaining that he likes Minori, Taiga's best friend. This leads to them helping to get with each other's friends. Also, there are other characters that get introduced as romantic interests or antagonists, with each person having interesting personalities and stories. There's 25 episodes that released in 2008 and the whole show's finished. The story is told with the use of characters in every aspect of it. As this is not a fantasy world or anything crazy like that, a lot of the storytelling is done with the characters and their experiences as the core. This is a very good way to make sure both the story and characters are developed properly. I personally was left with no questions at the end of the show, as it addresses everything needed at one point or another in the show. This also allows the characters to have developed personalities and backstories. Most of the time the story itself is very relaxed, however, the longer you watch, the more mature and personal subjects start getting introduced. After all, the story fundamentally revolves around complex feelings and living conditions that each character goes through. This is given deeper development with each relationship affecting things in the show and how we as viewers perceive it. As the viewer gets more attached to the characters, the more serious the topics get, allowing the viewer to first start liking the characters before trying to make you feel sorry or sad for those characters. Within the show, you're less likely to take one character's side with the way it's told. This is all done very well with the storytelling, not overcomplicating things and allowing you as the viewer to make your own opinion. Depending on the situation, most people never know if the choice they're making is the correct one and if they're doing it for themselves or someone else, especially when you're younger. Even if they know they're making a selfish decision, a lot of the time people aren't willing to admit it. These kinds of aspects with characters that don't have great adult role models are even more effective at connecting the characters in the story and the watchers of the show. Even adults don't know what they're doing a lot of the time. However, understanding that and learning from it is what it means to be mature. This is one of the core messages that I found resonating with me throughout this story, giving it a 10 out of 10. There are some very interesting things that the story questions, like what are friends? How should friends act when one's hurt or depressed? And what should you do if you have affectionate feelings for a friend but they don't have them for you? There's more that I could list, however I think you get the idea. There are 5 main characters with very different personalities. Ryuji Takasu, the protagonist. He's kind of a people pleaser as he tries his best to make everyone happy. If he believes he can help, he'll try his best to help his friends, however he also understands to give them space as well. A lot of the time he's confused in regards to his emotions and others as he's trying to understand himself better. With his mom working a lot of the time, he's come to develop skills like cooking and cleaning to a higher standard than most. He's got a cleaning complex leading to him cleaning everything he finds dirty. For reasons, they decided to make him extra dense in a lot of situations and confrontations. While this is not a lot about him, I've already mentioned some of his traits in the intro. Next we have Taiga Aisaka, the heroine of our story. Her mother and father separated, which led to her deciding to leave as well. She's moved into an apartment that's right next to Ryuji's house. While she has a short fuse and gets provoked very easily, she tackles her problems head on. This makes a lot of people admire her over time. She's also a huge klutz with terrible luck. With her chaotic personality and incapability to take care of herself, Ryuji ends up having to help her a lot of the time. She never expresses gratitude for these actions even if she is grateful for them, leading back to her being a tsundere. She's not always like this, allowing her to be likable and not annoying. She also finds it hard to understand how she feels a lot of the time, making her more frustrated. Her character grows the most throughout the whole story, leading to some big changes in her behavior. We also have Minori Kushieda, the girl Ryuji likes and Taiga's best friend. She's a girl that's always smiling and putting her soul into everything she does. While being part of the baseball team, she also works all the time saving up money. While she seems to be happy all the time, in reality she hides behind that smile, avoiding getting hurt. She also doesn't want her friends to be hurt, putting them before herself. With her chillful nature, she can get along with most people with no problems. In most aspects, she's the most mature of all the cast, while seeming to be the least mature within the first half of the show. While there's a lot that can be said about her, most of these things get explored in the later parts of the show. And as to not spoil anything, I'm simply gonna avoid those things. Another important character, Yusuke Kitamura, the boy that Taiga likes and Ryuji's best friend. He's the weirdest out of all the characters, however I'm sure there's a lot of people that like his character. He's the class rep, part of the student council, and he's also on the baseball team. He makes a lot of jokes and has a lot of confidence. As a class rep, he gets along with everyone and tries his best to be an example to others. There's a lot to him, however, he's the least developed out of the 5 characters. While we get to learn more about him, there's only one section of the story that seems to build on his character compared to other characters that get a lot of different instances. While he seems likable, he's only relevant to the story because Taiga likes him, leading to lack of development. The only way this could be improved is by giving the connection between Ryuji and him more development. Still, he's a good character, simply lacking in comparison to the others. Lastly, we have Ami Kawashima, Kitamura's childhood friend. She transfers to his school for reasons that get explained in the show. She's a model for magazines, however she has a weird personality. She acts nice to people so that they start liking her, however she only tries to manipulate them. We get informed about this instantly. With her set up to be the least liked character in the story, she's the one that grew on me the most. At first I hated her, however the more her character develops and we learn more about her, the more you start liking her. She's especially real with Ryuji after a little while, leading to us learning a lot about her. She also looks like another character in the show, which confused Coffee when we were talking about the show. All of these characters have good depth to them. Even if things aren't stated to the viewer, there are a lot of things that can be implied from how the characters act or their backstories in different situations. This is a great way to create characters in this kind of story, leading to me giving them a 9.5 out of 10. Overall, there isn't a lot that I would change about the characters, and even if I would change anything, it wouldn't impact the overall rating much. While action is not a big part of the show, there's a lot of drama and conflict that affects the characters. This is the only form of action that the show has besides Taiga attacking Ryuji or anything else that gets on her nerves. With drama being a large part of the later section of the show, it becomes very important. However, as not to spoil anything, I won't be expanding on this. If I'm only considering the actual action in the show, I'd give it a 3 out of 10. However, if I'm putting into consideration the drama of the show, it deserves a 8 out of 10. It could be higher, but depending on what action is for you, the rating might be lower or higher. As conflict in relationships is a big part of the show, I feel it relates to the action of the show. The drama in the show is a large part of it, and it gives it a lot of realism. It also just makes the whole story more enjoyable and gives it more depth. Just don't expect any crazy action from a slice of life romance show. The overall sound in the show is good, especially as it came out in 2008. The music in the show is well designed, making you feel certain emotions without you realizing the music's presence. While it's there, it doesn't take priority over what's happening in the show. It supports the things that are happening in the show and makes them more emotional. The sound effects throughout the whole show are good and add depth to the different situations. If the show's trying to be funny, the sound effects will represent that. When things get more serious, there are areas where there'll be no music or sound effects to build up the moment. I like the sound design in the show a lot, leading to me giving it an 8 out of 10. The opening has good visuals and good music. While it's not something I'd listen to, it fits the show well. As this is a romance show, I'm not expecting crazy sound design, however it's simple and good in this show, fitting the genre well. While the animation and the art style aren't anything special, they're still at a higher quality than most other shows that came out around 2008. While the show isn't based around action, they still know how to change perspective and camera angles to make the show more interesting. This is done more when adding to an emotional scene, making them stand out more. However, overall there are a lot of instances where characters are stuck repeating the same animation while they're talking. This is normal and used a lot in shows that revolve around narrative and character development. Simply don't expect anything crazy from a show that was released so long ago. With me comparing the animation and the art style with the shows that are releasing now, it'll get a 6 out of 10. There's nothing wrong with the animation, however shows like Bleach, One Piece, Jujutsu Kaisen and many others have better animation and art styles. However, all those shows do revolve around the animation and the action a lot more than Toradora does. It's crazy to me that the last time I've watched this show was around 7 years ago. In the end, it's still my favorite romance show till this day. There are other romance shows that are great, however, this one's my favorite for many reasons. The overall score is 41.5 out of 50. While the show is one of my favorites, there are still things that can be improved. I'd leave the story how it is, give some characters more relevancy and development, polish the sound, action and animation. If there was a modern adaptation of the show, most of these things would be polished, and as long as they didn't change the story, you would have something amazing. Hope you enjoyed the video. This one took me a while to create. I like the show a lot, so I tried my best to express the great things about the show without spoiling anything. If there are things that you disagree with me on, put them in the comments and we can have a discussion about it. If you go to this point of the video, make sure to hit that sub button and put any other show you'd like us to review in the comments as well. If you're interested, you can join the Discord. The link will be in the description. Right now it's kind of empty. Hope you all are having a great day and I hope to see you in the next video.